Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. And welcome back, my friends, to Secret Origins Month. This should not have been a Secret Origins Month episode for a very long time. Well, okay, we're entering 17 years of this show, but I don't think I've ever talked about the Doom Patrol before. I think the closest we've gotten is the March of the Titans retrospective, but otherwise I don't remember us doing so. Not that people haven't recommended Doom Patrol stuff before. Repeatedly, people have asked me about doing the comic featuring Codpiece, a villain who... let's just say I feel like this guy was jealous of infamous crime lord Big Dicks. I've always tried to keep Secret Origins Month to characters who have some part in pop culture. There are dozens of characters in Marvel and DC I could do videos talking about their first appearances, but most general audiences don't know who they are. And it's only more recently the Doom Patrol has gotten more attention. Not a huge amount, mind you, but they got themselves a streaming show that lasted for 4 seasons, and these days getting past 1 season can be an insurmountable hurdle for a streaming show, much less a superhero streaming show. I've never watched it. I've heard it's good, but I didn't have the DC streaming service when it launched, and I always forget I occasionally have access to HBO Max. But even beyond that, they continued the annoying trend of putting Cyborg onto a team that isn't the Titans, which started with the New 52 deciding, hey, let's make Cyborg a founding member of the wrong damn team by putting him on the Justice League. But that's just personal preference speaking. I'm sure someday I'll have to cover it via Patreon-sponsored review or the like. In the meantime, let's talk about these guys. The Doom Patrol comes to us from 3 creators: Arnold Drake, Bob Haney, and Bruno Premiani. The anthology series My Greatest Adventure was in danger of cancellation in 1963, and since superheroes were back in vogue, they decided to switch it over to some new characters. Drake came up with the concept of a group of superheroes who hated being superheroes to try to bring something new to the table. Their leader, a genius in a wheelchair, would be the one driving them forward. Drake would later state that he felt the X-Men were a ripoff of the Doom Patrol, what with a group of characters who bemoaned their powers, led by a super intellect in a wheelchair, though later in life he admitted it was possible that it was a coincidence. Honestly though, while you could draw comparisons, certainly, really, the concepts being similar is where it should end. The Doom Patrol are about a group of accidental misfits creating a found family, while the X-Men are about fighting prejudice altogether. Sure, they have some overlapping themes, and again, the found family aspect, but the execution keeps them very different. As I mentioned, we have 2 writers as part of the creators here, and that results in an interesting and somewhat unique aspect to this first appearance. While the 2 plotted the story together, they each wrote one half of the script. Drake the first, Haney the latter, and thus it might result in some different writing styles and characterization. The Doom Patrol, if you're unaware, is also where Beast Boy was first introduced, though that won't be in this review. Probably something for a future Secret Origins month. In the meantime, let's dig into My Greatest Adventure number 80 and check out the Doom Patrol's first appearance. Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man, punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara. The cover's okay, featuring a few of our heroes facing off this very sad old dude who's shooting one of them with a laser. You're too late, automaton! In another second, your ally, Negative Man, will be totally destroyed, unable to return to his human body. In fact, it was done like halfway through that sentence. I'm a bit of a windbag. Reborn out of disaster, 4 survivors rose again to form a legion of the world's strangest heroes. All were eventually forced out in a corporate takeover by a rival legion of weird heroes. We open with Ulysses S. Grant here being interrogated by the shadowy council of people who secretly run the world. Actually, we'll do proper introductions in a moment, but what we do know is that we're in the substructure of a stately building in a bustling city. Though admittedly, it's hard to look stately when you're smushed between 2 skyscrapers. You are about to experience one of the strangest meetings ever conceived. A joining of the 4 most unusual people on Earth. Reality shows are really starting to run out of ideas. Sit quietly in the shadows of this clandestine conference and observe it well. There will be a test later. For from it shall soon be born the Doom Patrol, though this will be highly exaggerated in the tell-all books to come. Our host here talks to the 3 in shadows. You 3 are victims of a cruel and fantastic fate. Naturally, your meals have been comped. I summoned you here to give you the opportunity to cheat that fate by offering you the chance to experience adventures more incredible than any humans have ever known, and to remind you to pay the damn electrical bill in here. The shadows ask who the hell he is, but he says that's unimportant. But I know all about each of you. I know you have all become quitters. Outcasts! Join me on an adventure, you pathetic losers! Saying that you suck is what makes you want to work for me! One says that this guy doesn't know how terrible things have been for them, but he says that they're not the only ones who have gotten a rough deal. A wheelchair! You see, I too have a handicap. But I conquered it with my brain by mastering every field of knowledge. Okay, I am not a wheelchair user, but as far as I know, it's pretty rude to suggest that one needs to conquer anything when in one. Even then, I'd say it's a pretty asshole thing to do to suggest, oh, you didn't master every field with your ginormous brain like I did? Well, I guess you're just pathetic then. In these rooms, I go on my own adventures. Adventures with my mind! You've mastered every field of knowledge, but your best use of it is to sit around your house daydreaming. Really making a great sales pitch here, dude. The guy says that his adventures in Imagination Land don't actually help real people, and that's why he needs their help. They scoff at this, and the guy turns his spotlight on the woman of the group, Rita Farr. Behind that beautiful face, you are different than other girls. I don't know how you're made of mashed potatoes, but your face hides it well. The guy narrates how Rita was a movie star who insisted on doing her own stunts. During a shoot in Africa, she was supposed to be chased by a crocodile. Be careful! Don't worry, Mitch. I didn't win a swimming gold medal at the Olympics for nothing. Pity there was never an Olympic sport for speaking expository dialogue in a natural way. While the crocodile was supposed to be within range of guns, I presume tranquilizers, since otherwise yeesh on both gun safety and animal cruelty, but the current in the river she was swimming in suddenly got too strong and pulled the 2 out of range. To try to escape the crocodile, Rita went over a waterfall, but ended up in a strange landscape emitting odd gas. She passed out from them and the film crew retrieved her. She was in the hospital for a few days recovering, and when filming resumed, she suddenly grew giant-sized, along with her clothes, because they breathed in the gas too, I guess. She then shrank rapidly as well, and a local witch doctor explained to the group that the gas was responsible. Rita couldn't control it and thus gave up her acting career out of fear and shame, but the mysterious man says that now she can control it and end her self-exile. Next up is Larry Traynor, who's wrapped up in bandages and says, unlike Rita, he doesn't want to face the public again. Larry was a test pilot in an experimental rocket plane that malfunctioned and flew beyond its original intended maximum altitude into suborbital areas. He passed out and spent hours in the Van Allen belt. At least I think that's what they're saying. He calls it the still uncharted wave belts of inner space, which, that's not a real term, but okay. Eventually, the plane crashed, but he survived. A rescue plane soon arrived to get Larry, but he noticed one of its landing gear wasn't down. As he watched the rescue plane arrive, a shadowy duplicate of himself came out and flew to the plane to bring the landing gear down. "I can only speculate, Larry, that unknown wave belts bombarding your body floating in space without adequate protection are what created that bizarre being. That negative man."
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
"Also, that means you have to dress like a mummy for some reason." Larry says that he's barely conscious when the negative man form comes out, and if it doesn't return to his body within 60 seconds, he'll die. So he'd appreciate it if you stopped putting it on hold when he calls. The guy tells Larry that he can control his powers and use them for good. "I won't do it! I won't! And nothing on Earth will make me change my mind! How dare you suggest I use my powers for good! I'm gonna use them for so much evil now!" The final figure reveals himself, a robotic man, and says he'll tell his own tale. He's Cliff Steele, a daredevil who got into a crash at a European racetrack. His body was too badly damaged for the doctors to repair, but fortunately they had an alternative at the ready for his brain. A robot body! Naturally, he is upset that he lost his human body. "I'm a robot man. Except for my human brain that was transplanted. And the worst part is my insurance is screwing me over because this wasn't in-network." Man, remember when we used to transplant human brains into robot bodies in the 60s? Good times. Anyway, Cliff tried to go back to his sporting stuff, but no one would compete against him because they thought his robotic capabilities gave him an unfair advantage. Thus, he feels like an outcast from the human race. But the wheelchair guy says he needs to disregard his self-pity, especially since his body makes him mostly invulnerable and his senses still work in the robot body. Somehow. "How do you know what it's like, being trapped inside this metal body? How do you know anything about me at all?" "I know, Cliff, because I was that surgeon! And Rita, I was that crocodile!" They're all amazed by this. Now, with silence born of a new respect, they follow their amazing host along a corridor. New respect? Yeah, maybe from Rita and Larry, but doesn't Cliff hate being in the robot body? Wouldn't he be resentful that the guy did this to him? "My headquarters contains almost all the world's knowledge, every technique of operation, every means of communication and scientific analysis, except for Twitter. Screw supporting that trash fire. This is the Nerve Center. Here I can instantly be in contact with any place on Earth when disaster strikes. Admittedly, I have no way of actually sending you to these disasters, but at least I can call them up on the phone to hear the screaming." He'll stay behind at the base to coordinate and lead them, but suddenly the massive TV in the place turns on. "Quiet, please. This special TV is automatically activated at the words Flash Bulletin." They miss like dozens of disasters because some stations end up saying breaking news instead. A bomb has apparently been hidden at a nearby pier and the police are evacuating the area, but they can't locate it. Wheelchair Guy says this is a perfect job for the negative man. Only he can reach the docks and locate the bomb in time with this new type of detector I invented. Are the docks located just next door? How fast can the negative form move? And can it take that detector and move through walls with it?
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Larry is able to find it within 21 seconds and brings the bomb back to their headquarters instead of just, like, throwing it into the water or something. But hey, fortunately, Wheelchair Guy can disarm the bomb. Oh wait, he says that it's a new type of explosive that he can't disarm himself, but he can still detect. So instead, he has Rita shrink and instructs her how to disarm it. "Plastic! Every bit of it! That's why the police couldn't locate it. Their detectors only work on metal." Oh, I see. You don't actually know what plastic explosives are, do you? Larry congratulates Rita on disarming the bomb, but she points out that Larry was the one who retrieved it in the first place. In turn, Wheelchair Guy points out that Cliff held the bomb to his body, ready to sacrifice himself to protect them in case Rita failed. In turn, he points out that Wheelchair Guy was the one who figured all this out in the first place. His intelligence was the most important. I don't know, I'm still kinda iffy on him being the smart one when this was Plan A. Still, everyone's feeling so good about them stopping the bomb that they agree to work with him. At that moment, a unique band is born, which would break up due to drugs and creative differences 2 years later. We're of course not done yet. While normally I'd probably just leave the review at that, this is considered only chapter 1 of the story, so we have to move on to the second half. Have a Tootsie Roll in the meantime, I guess, and try the tongue twister the ad offers too. Good vocal exercise. Advertisements used to be fun, now they're Grammarly trying to tell me I should use unnecessary AI bullcrap. If you're wondering why I've been calling the man Wheelchair Guy this whole time, it's because only now, in the second chapter, the 13th page of the story, do we actually get something to call him. The Chief. And unfortunately, it seems their headquarters is being bugged by this shriveled up fruit in the shape of a man. Who is this seemingly ageless man who can pierce the very walls of the Chief's subterranean headquarters? I love how ageless actually has two definitions that are kind of opposites. One, of course, describes lasting for a long time or forever, which certainly describes this guy. But the other definition is never looking old or appearing to grow old, which, yeah, I think the English language really needs some work. But what is it that this guy is observing happening with the Chief? This is a secret photo of the first known alien spaceship to land on Earth. We're giving them a parking ticket. And it must remain our secret, because it contains the most deadly device ever dreamed of. A Roomba with a gun! The Chief theorizes that aliens have observed their nuclear weapons tests, and they sent this robot ship to monitor things, but instead it crash-landed. Do you mean you've actually seen this ship? No, I haven't been within 3,000 miles of it. So your next question is, how did I get this photograph? Really long arms. No, of course he has drones with cameras and other equipment to document the rocket and its interior. In particular in the craft was a machine that could convert any matter into atomic fuel. But understand this! Any atomic fuel is a potential explosive. I mean, to be fair, that's kind of true of any fuel. With this machine, one could create a bomb big enough to destroy every planet in the solar system! My God! But that's illegal! And apparently General Old Guy here says he had the same thought, blowing up the solar system with it.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
The Chief says that one man wants to get his hands on this technology and is incredibly dangerous, with worldwide power at his command, but Old Guy turns off the camera since he knows it's him who he's talking about. He calls up his agents, and we learn his name is General Immortus. And true to that name, he is apparently immortal. So I guess blowing up the solar system is just his way of stress testing it. The next day, the Doom Patrol is sent out on their own private plane to the alien rocket. The three have been briefed about General Immortus and how the Chief has failed to defeat him 3 times before. Cliff has also been equipped with a portable TV camera as a necklace that the Chief can use to monitor the mission. Once they reach the rocket and land, he warns them that the thing is equipped with deadly automatic defenses, which in this case comes in the form of an alien tank with a huge-ass eye sitting on top of it. Topped by an eye with some kind of tube below it. What's their purpose? The purpose of the eye? The Chief figured it out. It's an electronic spotter, which directs that ray cannon. Hey guys, do you think that the eye-shaped thing might have something to do with looking at stuff? I don't know, it's a real puzzler. Glad we've got the big brain Chief to tell us these things. Negative Man flies out and blocks the thing's vision, though, I don't know, I feel like it'd be more effective using this Tootsie Roll fudge advertised in the comic. And it only costs a penny! I was gonna make a joke about inflation, meaning like, oh wait, it costs $1 now, so it's not a good deal, but actually, according to an inflation calculator I checked, that'd only be $0.10 in today's money. That's a pretty good frickin' deal for Tootsie Rolls. Anyway, Rita goes giant-sized and disables the tank, but the alien ship sends out a different sort of tank at them. It shoots out a freezing gas that neutralizes Rita and Larry. Larry's completely frozen too, but ice can't stop a man with a steel body. Spoken like someone who's never had to start a car in a really bad blizzard. Cliff is able to reach the tank and, per the Chief's instructions, jams his fist into the thing's barrel. This causes it to backfire and explode, the gas soon dissipating and allowing our heroes to move again. The explosion did damage Cliff, though. The arm that was plugging the barrel up is gone, and one of his legs is shorted out. They head into the ship and find the atomic converter and rip it out, but soon discover that the ship is repairing itself, no doubt preparing to leave the planet. The Chief orders them to leave, but General Immortus has arrived and demands they surrender. He also warns that he already knows about the three of them and their powers, consequently having ways to counter them. Fortunately, the Chief has a plan. Robot Man heads out first, I guess just dragging himself by one leg, and Immortus fires a polarization ray that disables all of Cliff's robotic components. He was right! I can't command any part of my body! My brain still functions because it's human, but the rest of me is a pile of useless junk now. Important medical tip I learned from this comic: your brain can function perfectly normally inside a robot body, even if all the robot parts are disabled. Immortus then enters the ship to confront Larry, assuming that Rita has shrunken down to hide somewhere. Larry unleashes the Negative Man, but Immortus has a device that creates radio interference, literal static, that breaks up the energy of the Negative Man. He can't stay cohesive enough to move around, thus all Immortus has to do is keep him frozen in that state for 60 seconds so Larry will die. Fortunately, we learn that Rita was actually hiding out inside of Cliff's robot body, the Chief correctly guessing that Immortus wouldn't search it. She gets to the General's tank with the polarization array and switches it off, allowing Cliff to not only take down Immortus' goons, but then get back to the ship and knock down Immortus and destroy the static device. Larry is able to return to his body. Our heroes quickly escape with the atomic converter as the ship seals itself off in preparation for takeoff.
It's taking off, but with my knowledge, I can handle these controls and land it. Let's look at the key mapping. Wait, who the hell uses IJKL for movement? Holy crap, page up is the jump button? Why can't I remap these?
He does announce that one mistake might cause this ship to blow up, and just that happens as the ship does begin to level off before suddenly exploding once it passes a mountaintop. Poor fool didn't realize he had inverted controls turned on. Larry starts hitting on Rita after saying what a good team the two of them made, but Cliff reminds him, "Hey asshole, didn't I save your ass? You should be hitting on me!" Rita, however, has to remind them that it's mostly the Chief who saved the day, and boy, I hope there aren't any terrible revelations about him later. And so our comic ends with the team back up to full strength and their heroic exploits actually making the newspaper, right after that building code under fire and the summit being kaput. And the paper has even named them the Doom Patrol. What do you think? I think it's better than the original proposed name for the team, the Legion of the Strange. Anyway, this comic is incredibly goofy, but not terrible. As an origin story, it's not bad, quickly getting us up to speed on the three's backstories and abilities, but it doesn't really do much to focus on why they're outcasts and the ostracization for it. A bit of that for Cliff, but Rita's career seems like it'd be perfectly fine since she's fully in control of her powers. We also get to see them use their powers in unique and interesting ways, fully demonstrating the versatility of their abilities and why they complement each other as a team. The Chief's name and backstory aren't given, yet nobody seems to really question this, nor some of the more fantastical bits like, holy crap, aliens are real? But then again, I suppose once you have brain transplants into robot bodies, maybe aliens are less impressive. The art is pretty solid as well, suitably detailed, and the action scenes satisfying, even though there's not much in the way of fighting. Just knocking people out and shoving over an old man. But by that same token, it shows that their powers have use beyond violence, which is good. Still, calling them the weirdest superheroes or even the strangest feels a bit disingenuous. Bear in mind that Hank Pym had already premiered, so size changing was an existing power. Negative Man certainly has something unique, but it's not so bizarre. And while Robot Man may have been a bit more unique because of his human brain and robot body idea, he wasn't even the first robotic hero, and you could argue shades of Frankenstein existed with the brain transplantation thing. Still, a good start to the team, and they would have a lot of ups and downs afterwards. The original Doom Patrol would be killed at the end of the book's life, sacrificing themselves to save a small fishing village. Definitely something unique for the time. Eventually, they'd all get resurrected, but not for a while, especially when DC tried to relaunch the title a couple times pre- and post-Crisis on Infinite Earths. Eventually, they'd find success with Grant Morrison, who really emphasized the weird in their writing in the book, and only continued that when Rachel Pollack took over, and the book shifted over to Vertigo, where she had more freedom to talk about stuff not usually touched on in mainstream books of the 90s. Social issues, sexuality, gender identity, etc. There, of course, have been more runs after that, but I'd say that Morrison's and Pollack's runs are the most well-remembered and talked about, especially when Morrison introduced the idea that the Chief was actually responsible for the accidents that created each member, hating them for their narcissism, and figured he could make them into better people by making them freaks. The Chief, aka Superhero Jigsaw! But, of course, what we're here for was to see their first appearance. And you know what? Not bad. Very goofy, especially the blow up the solar system atomic converter, but we've seen goofier on this show. Next time, we end Secret Origins Month not with a character's beginning, but the first shared universe encounter in Marvel.
The worst words that you will ever see.
But with my knowledge, I can handle these controls and land it. Careful, though. One mistake might cause it to blow up.
Oh god, the aliens used a Nintendo 64 controller for this thing! What do I do?
Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching.